All right, students, here's our table router. We're going to use our table router to make our dado and rabbet joints. Dado and rabbet joints are going to enable us to have more support in our project when joining wood pieces together, and also to give a greater gluing surface when the pieces join up so that the project is stronger. The dado cuts are seen in the side pieces where the shelves fit in horizontally across the two sides, the left and right side. The lap or rabbet joint, we'll see it in the back piece, which we won't really look at today, but we will also see it on this back edge of the side pieces. So if I was to show you an example of that, I could take this piece here that already has our two dados and also has this rabbet joint across the back. Now the dados are going to be 3/4 of an inch wide, and they are going to go half the depth of the board. So that means they're going to go about 3/8 of an inch deep. This one does not look like it's deep enough, but if I grab another example that we've been working on, this one of them looks like it's deep enough. The other one looks like it needs to be redone. So if they're not deep enough, you can go over them again. Now on the back side, they do look good. So what probably happened with this one here is, as it was being run through, the student may have pushed down too far on one side and lifted the side up. So we do need to check those to make sure that the depth is correct, because you may need to go over them again. Now I kind of have a mess here because I have a few things out that I wanted to show you. You want to have a hand broom close by because this makes a lot of debris. In addition to the hand broom, I also have a trash can close by for all the debris to go into, because it's not hooked up to the dust collector. Makes a lot of mess. I have this wrench that has a gauge on it for raising and lowering the router head. So it kind of works like the planer. If you go clockwise, it goes up, and you go counterclockwise, it goes down. And just like the planer as well, one full turn is 1/8 of an inch. There's a fence, which is a straight edge cutting guide, just like you see on the miter box saw and the table saw. And the fence has some hand screw clamps so that it can be moved. Now I've gone one step further. Let me move these out of the way. And I've made some guidelines on the table. I made a guideline way in the back for the upper dado on the shelf. I made another purple guideline up closer to the cutting head for the bottom dado. And then I also have this pencil line for the edge rabbet. I'm just going to demonstrate one of the dados for now. So I'm going to set it up for the top dado, and I'm trying to do this with one hand and 9 fingers. I get it so I can just see the line on each side. There's our guideline. There's our guideline. Clamp it down. Clamp it down. All right, I've already checked the height for the upper dado, and now it's ready for this upper dado. Now normally, to get it to cut right, we're going to go from the right to the left, but To prevent splittering, we'll start on the left. We'll go in just a hair, and then we'll go back right to left. Now, in the interest of safety, I did have a push stick over here, and there it is. I'll grab that. Just like with the table saw, you can use the push stick to keep your hands away from the rotating blade. For me, a good rule of thumb is not to have your hands in this metal area. If you have to have your hands go in through this metal area, you should have a push stick to keep your hands out of that area, just to be safe. When you're using the push stick, you want to make sure that the push stick is not going to be in the path of the blade. When possible, try and brace your work with two hands. If you're doing something smaller, you wouldn't be able to do that. If you do need to apply downward force, make sure your downward force is either with the push stick pushing down or with your hand outside of the cutting area. Now my trick is to see if I can do this one-handed. I think what I'll do is I'll just go over this dado cut here to demonstrate what it's going to look like. So there's a switch on the side, has a safety bar. I'm in the wood shop, so I want to make sure that I have my eye protection. Students, you need to understand when you're out in the wood shop around equipment, whether you're running it or not, you need to have that eye protection on. Okay, I'm going to check to make sure my fence is secure. I've checked my height. I've lined it up with my guidelines. There is a safety bar on the switch if you have to grab it real quick to shut it off. Sometimes when I turn it on, the safety bar will drop down and shut it off before I mean for it to. So all I really did there was I cleaned out that existing dado. Now, one thing I'll mention is feed rate. Feed rate being how the rate in which you are feeding the machine or feeding the material into the machine. If you see the material burning or smoking, you're going too slow. And if the machine is bogging down, you're going too fast. So you have to kind of make that adjustment as you're doing it. Let's see if I can do an actual one on a piece of scrap wood. Okay, did you see how that splintered at the end? If this was to be my finished piece, I'm probably going to need to glue that in for aesthetic purposes. This wood that we're working with is very dry and it has a tendency to splitter. Now I started on this side first to try and prevent that, but even though I did that, it still splintered on me and I'll want to glue that up a little bit. But here is our dado cut. So it's to look like this on our sides, so that lines up the way it's supposed to. And the dado cut is for the shelf. It's going to allow this 3/4 inch shelf to fit in that groove. So that's not our actual shelf, but our shelf's going to be made out of material that is that thick. Now when I want to do the lower dado, all I need to do is loosen the clamps and move it down to my next guideline. Now this is why I have this hand broom here, so I can see where my guidelines are, and sometimes I have to go and put those guidelines, draw them back on the machine. Tap, tap, tap. So my next purple line is the upper, or the lower dado. And I can check that with my scrap that I set up. So I'll often take a piece that I've already done. And this one you definitely want to use your push stick, and you want to push next to the fence as you're running your stock through. So hopefully you're safe with this activity. Make sure that you clean up when it's done, and always have your eye protection on when working in the shop. Good luck.